Time to get your fix.
Come on down, get your horrible gaming review. 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 Wow.
Ho ho ho! Theme song. Hello, my name is Zachariah Van Sliders, and welcome to another horrible game review. Real quick shout out to my brother Nick Van Sliders for that amazing new theme song we have added to our repertoire here. Just a few disclaimers before we get too far into it. Number one, the horrible in the title refers to the quality of the review, not necessarily the quality of the game that I am reviewing. The reason it is horrible is I only usually get a few hours between 5 and 10 with the game. So this is a snap judgment review. It's not super in-depth. And if you want one of those, there are plenty of outlets to get it. This is something that I'm trying to tell you if you're going to have fun right away or not. Number two, I don't give scored reviews for video games. I do not believe in them for video games. I think it's one of the most subjective forms of art. So in that vein, you will get an overview of what the game is. Then you will get a pros and cons list based, of course, on my opinion, as all reviews are. And then I will tell you whether or not I'm going to stick with the game outside the purposes of this review. With all that down, I'm really excited to do the review that I'm doing today. I went out and I got myself an app just for capturing on my phone so that I could deliver this review to you because I am that excited about this game. The game I'm talking about is Legends of Runeterra, the new collectible card game for PC and mobile. Now, real quick, before we get too far into this, I want to give you guys a little bit of a reference sheet from me. Number one, I've played collectible card games my entire life. I love collectible card games. In person, I've played Legend of the Five Rings, old school and new school Magic. I've played Yu-Gi-Oh! And then a whole slew of other card games. In the digital space, I've played Hearthstone, Eternal, Fable Fortune, and then a bunch of other ones in the digital space as well that didn't really stick with me. So I have some experience with collectible card games. Number two, I don't have any experience with League of Legends. So needless to say, I was a little skeptical coming in that I would even be able to transfer into it with literally no knowledge of the source material on the game. All that being said, I was pleasantly surprised. We don't even have to get into the pros for this. You do not need to know anything about League of Legends to get into this card game. Not at all. Legends of Runeterra has 7 factions, each with their own cards and their own kind of specialty, such as Noxus is an overly aggressive faction, whereas Bilgewater tends to have these huge cannonade-type spells that deal straight damage to the opponent's health. Each opponent in the one-on-one match has 20 health. Once it's reduced to 0, they lose. What's interesting about this game is the way it presents the cards and the turns of play. There is no weird, crazy mana scheme in this, no dueling colors. You can have up to 2 colors in your deck, and they all work off the same things to purchase with. Those things being an increasing mana pool and energy pool a la Hearthstone. But that's kind of where the similarities end. In most other card games, one person has a turn, then the other person has a turn. You can attack on your turn, period. With this, they really created this slow, methodical pace to it that brings out the strategy. Basically, what happens is every time you play a card, the opponent gets to play a card. It's a give and take back and forth. Even if it's your turn, it still is just a back and forth game. And as far as the turns go, the turns mean you can attack. So like round 1, you'll be able to attack. Round 2, your opponent will be able to attack. But you can both play cards just fine. What this does is create a level of strategy to a collectible card game I have never seen before. Most of what a collectible card game is, for the people who have never played a collectible card game, is you collect cards one way or another. If you're collecting live cards, you're buying packs for random cards and hoping you get the better cards, rares, whatever. For digital, you usually earn them through play. once you collect enough cards, you create a deck based on some pre-existing rule specifications on how the deck has to be created. Now, once your deck is created, you then take it in against your opponents. Now, most other card games are very reliant on the deck construction and then a little bit of luck. That's really where most of it is. The playing is fun, but usually it's an academic thing based on who has the better deck. That is not necessarily the course here. Like, yes, there are superior decks. There is definitely deck building aspects to this that it matters how good your deck is. But you can also dig your way out of tight spots based on this weird kind of conversational method in which cards are played and cards are countered. And other than that, they've taken just the good things of all the other card games and kind of left the rest. In addition to all that fun stuff, every faction has these ultra rare legend cards or champion cards are what they're called. These champion cards are specifically special. They have some attribute, and then they also have a way to level up, which actually boosts the card's abilities and possibly even gives them a whole nother power on top of it. Which makes an interesting level of strategy to it. Whether or not you're trying to level up your champion or just go for the win, whatever you're trying to do with it, it really layers on some interesting qualities to it. As far as the outside support, it's very robust in how you get cards, how you create cards, and the UI itself. We'll get a little bit more in depth into that in the pros section, but I do want to cover that there is also a casual and a ranked play. The casual play is just casual. Ranked is ranked, and you can proceed through your rank just like any other card game out there. What is interesting in a different change of place is the progression in this game. Whereas other card games just earn packs, and basically you're fending for random things. This game kind of takes a lot of the random out of this. They give you a healthy supply of what's called wild cards, which means if you have, say, a common wild card, you can just create any common card you don't have and add it to your collection. In addition to that, after you get through the initial prelude progression tree, every location, every faction has a progression tree. You pick one and you actually work towards getting more of those cards instead of collecting the random cards from wherever. So say if you want to build a Bilgewater deck, you pick the Bilgewater progression and then you will grind out just Bilgewater cards, which is really cool. In addition to all that, once every Tuesday, you have this vault. It's a weekly vault, and it gives you just a butt ton of cards. The amount of cards it gives you is based on how much you played through the week and how much you leveled up your vault, which you go from 1 to 10. And they do give you a lot of cards on that day. So, let's get into the pros. My absolute number one pro is the UI for this game is stellar, better than anything out there. When you have a card in front of you, whether you are in play, whether you are in a deck construction section, or whether you're just examining them, if you click on a card, not only can you see everything that card does, but it shows you every card that is related to that card. So if that card makes you draw another card, it will show the card that it makes you draw right behind it so that you know exactly what the goal is with the card. You don't have to jump around and figure things out. On top of that, anything that's underlined or a keyword or some sort of key trait for the card, all you have to do is put your finger on it and it shows you exactly what it does. There's no confusion about that, and it makes deck construction a dream, and it even makes combat way better. It adds that strategy, and you're making less stupid mistakes because you can look at the card and make sure you're doing what you're doing. Pro number 2 is also going to end up a con, but we'll get into that in a section. Probably my only con. I love that you can look directly at what you want and get it. If I want Bilgewater, I hit that tree, and that's what I'm collecting. I don't have to worry about getting other junk, so I can progress quicker to my goal of building a deck in that section, and that's wonderful. You can also switch between those regions anytime you want and start earning experience towards them and getting new cards that way. Pro number 3 is the versatility of deck creation. you're only limited by 2 of the factions, but you can pick any card from in them, and you don't have to worry about some weird mana scheme like Eternal has a problem with, or Magic. You have you know what it's coming from, so you can just focus on the combos and how you want the deck to play, and it's just a dream. My final pro is the polish. God, this game just is polished to a T. Everything has an animation. Your characters will actually have conversations with each other when they're on the board. It is absolutely a dream to play this game. It flows perfectly from one point to another. I haven't had any connectivity issues. It is absolutely the gold standard as far as collectible card games go, in my opinion. But there are a couple of cons. We should probably discuss them. My number one con on this, number one with a bullet, is it is kind of hard to create a lot of decks. What I'm saying by that is I like to have a few decks from a few different factions so that I kind of, when I get bored, I can switch it up. And I can also play different play styles. It's a little bit harder to do that because you're focusing on that one tree and maxing out that tree so that you can get all the cards in that area. But it's very hard once you get halfway through that tree to switch to another tree to start earning in that area so that you can build another deck, especially when the higher ups give you more and more stuff. So you kind of end up locking yourself in this kind of anxiety situation where you want to stay with the tree, but because of that, you're stuck with the one deck that works until you can finish that tree and make that deck, and then you're stuck with the 2 decks until you see what I'm saying. Still a very minor con. My second con is there's a lack of stats here that is a little bit irritating. One thing I love about games like Eternal is there's just constant stats. It tells you everybody you've ever played against. It tells you whether you won or lost. It tells you your overall wins and losses. It tells you everything. There's none of that in here. It tells you your rank from ranking, but other than that, there's no history for play. Nothing like that I can know of. Maybe there is online, and I'm not exactly sure what it is, but I just want it in the game. I want it in the card game itself so I can check it whenever I want. Also, if I want to make friends with somebody online, it's very hard because I have to literally remember the screen name from the match that I played and put it in to send a friend request, which is a little bit irritating.
The wings off a bilge wasp.
Again, though, a minor problem that will eventually be fixed. And then finally, this is a phone-only situation. This thing eats batteries like Pac-Man eats little dots. Your phone, it just kills phones. So you can only play for so long without charging it, and that's just something to keep in mind. And finally, whether or not I'm going to stick with this game, hell to the yes. Sorry to be crude about it, but I have been waiting for a collectible card game to truly excite me for some time now. The last one that really got me for a long time was Eternal, but eventually I fell out of it just due to overbuilding. And this one is fresh. It has just a great idea behind it, and there is no card game, in my opinion. I put to anybody to show me a card game that has more in-game strategy than this. That is so much about how you play the cards, and so much less about what cards you draw and what cards you put in your deck to start with. So I urge anybody who's ever played a collectible card game, go out, try this for a little bit, see what you think, because once it has you, it really has you. It's a great game. But that brings us to the end of this horrible review. Again, I want to thank my brother for our new theme song. And yeah, as long as you guys keep watching and listening, I'll keep making these in any way, shape, or form I can. And we'll see you guys next week.
I'm ready.
You've concerns, do ya?